Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Lynn Wilson and welcome to my home. Thanks for joining me. I'm so glad when you pop in like this and you come for a visit in my home. Feel free anytime to pop in. I'm always here. So I just wanted to jump on and I've been thinking. I like to think. And I've been thinking about times past. I get in these nostalgic moods. You ever get like that? And you reminisce to things of the past? Well, two things popped up in the last couple of days. And I think what happens is when things in my life go a little wonky, I find comfort in nostalgia. I find comfort in memories. I find comfort in the moments that I've had in my lifetime. And I think, yeah, we've been going through some stuff. Graham's been having some seizures. So if you don't see me on here sometimes for a couple days, number one, Graham helps do all the setup for the videos with the cameras and the mics and all that. And number two, my hands are just full. Just for me to do a video means I'm talking. Our house is small. He can hear it. He needs to rest. He needs to sleep. So things get a little wonky in that way. And yeah, so we've had some difficulties, you know, no major problems, just our normal, if you want to say what our normal is with seizures. So many of you always ask. I know some of you have us on your prayer list, so thank you so much. So I just wanted to jump on and say, I think this video stems around my husband. So I don't know if you have a moment in your life that is just gone disarray. Maybe you're a family of one, a family of more, but you've been having these things and life has just been a little, ugh. So some of the things that I've done in the past when we've had moments like that, and I currently do, is to make a better moment, a kind of a homegrown feeling. So how can we make a moment using the simple things in life? Something as simple as this little guy right here. Is he just not so stinking adorable? Or something like this. Something so pretty like that. Okay. So what am I talking about? Well, Graham's had seizures for a couple days, and not only does it affect him physically, but it affects him emotionally, and you know, just it can get you down. So I wanted Graham to feel special tonight. I wanted him to just have a moment where he knew his wife loved him, and he's going to be okay. And so as we were talking just about my day at work and, you know, just chit-chatting, all of a sudden I could see the look on his face when I go, oh no, this is not good. We're going down into a seizure. And he started doing some things that would be seizure related. He was aware of it enough that we could have somewhat of a conversation, but that meant everything I did was coming to a halt. And then he said, my levels are dropping. I probably need to eat something. Now, I could have quickly gotten a cheese snack, you know, a cheese stick or a granola bar or something like that. But I told him, put your head back. And I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? You know, think, Lynn, you've got a pantry, you got a stockpile. What could you throw together? So I whipped open the refrigerator and lo and behold, I found a few tidbits. So let me show you one of the meals I made to make him feel special and a few other meals I did to make our family feel special. And then we'll come back and wrap this up. All right, so you got to see some of the things I made. So for Graham tonight, what did I do? I ran quickly to the refrigerator. I had some eggs left over. I said, oh, I got a bag of spinach. I have a little feta cheese left over. I had some shredded cheddar, and I had some garlic. I have some dried minced onion. I've got salt and pepper. I've got butter. I've got an electric frying pan. Threw the butter in there, put the eggs in a mason jar, and just lightly scrambled them with a little water to make them a little fluffier. Threw the eggs in the electric frying pan. You could do it on the stovetop. Added the garlic, fresh garlic, in the jar, but not garlic powder. The onion flakes, the cheeses, the spinach. Just cooked that, rolled it, made it into somewhat of a omelet. Made some toast with butter, put that on top, presented that to my husband with a bottle of water. A good nutritional vegetarian meal, and healthy, and filled his belly, sustained him, and put him in a coma for 2 hours. He had a good 2-hour nap. I wanted him to feel special, and it put the biggest smile on his face. He knew I made this meal for him. And I don't eat eggs. I just don't like them any which way, shape, or form. So I thought I didn't feel like anything heavy, so I made myself 2 pieces of toast. We had some fresh mozzarella, so I put that on the side. I put some fresh salsa on top of the mozzarella, put a little feta cheese on that, and voila, I had a vegetarian meal tonight. That's exactly what I had for dinner. The other day, the guys just wanted something sweet in the house, and my husband was getting ready to do his counseling for one of his counselees that we have here in the house. And I thought, oh, some homemade banana bread. I had some bananas that were on their way out, and I made banana bread, and I had some walnuts in the freezer, and I also had just a handful of peanut butter chips, like chocolate chips, but peanut butter chips. Oh my word, were they the best. I had gotten those at Sharp Shoppers, if you've ever heard of that. It's a discount grocery store. I need to get back there. We'll go in there in a couple of weeks. I have to take you guys along with me. But I threw that all in there in the mixer. You saw that mixing up. You saw that being baked in the oven. It didn't last. I made 3 loaves. It didn't last. So there you go. Made my guys happy. Made the house smell delicious. And then I made a quick beef stroganoff. Whipped that all together. Put that over some tortellini, which was just something different. You can use egg noodles. You can use rice. You can use spaghetti. You can have it just over toast. You can do anything you want. I happen to have tortellini in the refrigerator. And I thought, you know what? Use up what you have. That's what I had. That's what I used. It was A++. I made both of my guys feel special. If I would have thought about it, I could have used some of that fresh spinach and threw that in there to add that extra. But it was a quick lunch. It was just something simple. So you got to see me whipping some of those things up. I will be posting all 3 recipes on my blog, so you can always visit me at resumeofamother.com. Go check me out on my blog. Sign up to be on a regular, interval for when I do post on there. I'd love to have you join me. So what are the 2 stories I remember? I'm going to quickly tell you those stories. I remember my mother-in-law sitting with me. I was a young wife and a young mother, and I was picking her brain on what it is to make a house a home, and she had 6 kids. They lived in Africa. They were missionaries. They didn't have a lot of money. And, things were just tough. They had to be super frugal. I said, Mom, how did you do it? How did you get dinner on the table with 6 kids? How did you do it when Dad was coming home? And she says, I'll tell you a secret. So now listen, you guys, we're friends, right? So I'm going to share this secret with you. This is a secret between us that my mother-in-law gave us. Secret to making your house smell good for dinner. You ready? It's going to knock your socks off. She would take an onion and chop it up and freeze it in a little sandwich bag or in a container, whatever she had. And the kids would be going crazy, and who knows what was going on. And she had 5 boys, so you can only imagine, my husband being one of them, bunch of rascals. And her husband was on his way home, so she'd get the frying pan out. She'd throw just like a teaspoon, she told me, just a teaspoon of onions and just a tiny little dollop of butter or bacon fat, whatever she had left over. And she also had recycled her oil all the time. And she would put that in the frying pan just on low. not so it would burn, but just low, and the fragrance in the air. She said, especially on the days I couldn't get dinner together, I would throw that in the frying pan, in the skillet. Her husband would come home, my father-in-law, and say, "Oh, dinner smells great, Ruth. It smells so good." And he'd sit down and, go through the bills or the paperwork or the mail and all that kind of stuff while dinner was now being prepared. A lot of times she said she had no time with 6 kids to get dinner started before he came home because she was sorting out the kids. But she would have that onion and butter or bacon fat in the frying pan every night. Now, some nights she had dinner prepared and other nights she didn't, but she always had that going. And she said the funny thing is a lot of times those onions and bacon fat never made it into that particular menu for that meal for that night. But her husband never questioned. He didn't know that it was onions and butter or onions and bacon fat. It was the smell of dinner. When he came home, just that smell of dinner. And so she just created this atmosphere in her home, and she made a moment on a budget in a very frugal way with a little bit of chopped onion and a little bit of bacon fat or butter or recycled oil, just enough to give that scent. And the boys would be upstairs reading books, probably tearing each other's hair out while she was getting dinner, and she'd serve the dinner on the table, and her husband was excited. Well, I kind of took that and I revised it and revamped it a little bit for myself. My husband used to work 3 to 11, and when my oldest son was very young, we were dirt poor. And we were lucky if we could get a 30-cent box of macaroni and cheese some nights for 3, 4, 5 nights in a row, and that was dinner. How do you serve that every night and make it exciting? A 30-cent box. Now, when you're a kid, kids like macaroni and cheese, but even that, it can get old real quick. And my husband was working nights, so you know what I would do? I didn't slap it on a paper plate and say, "Here's dinner." And I've talked about this before, but I would get grandma's china plate, and one night we'd have a candle on the table. And we'd have a candlelight dinner for me and my son. We'd talk about what's going on in school and what he's thinking and what his future plans are and what would he like to do when he's older. And we'd have a candle lit. I'd have it on grandma's china. And I'd have a beautiful centerpiece on the table. The next night, we would change it up, and maybe I'd put it in a soup mug, and we'd have some crackers on the side, and I would change up the centerpiece, and I would do something different, and we would have that again. And sometimes what I would do is put little games on the table. The little wood ones you get, like you go to Cracker Barrel and they had the pegs. We had a few of those things, or dominoes, or what's the other one? The sticks, pickup sticks. Is that what? We had all that stuff, and I'd put games on the table. So we would play these games, and we'd have dinner. And then another time I might do a picnic, and we'd take our macaroni and cheese, and I would put it, I had the little thermoses from the lunchbox, and I'd stuff it in the thermoses, and I'd make a bowl of popcorn. We'd put a blanket on the floor. I'd put a movie on. We'd have the same macaroni and cheese in a different container with some popcorn on the side, cheap popcorn, like, store-bought, pennies on the dollar popcorn, nothing in a brown paper bag. It was as cheap as you could get, and we'd watch a movie. Another night we would have dinner at the table, and I'd maybe use our regular dishes, or if I had paper plates, maybe something that was like kid-friendly paper plate, I'd put that on the table, and I'd say to my son, "Tonight's your night. What would you like as a centerpiece?" We would get Batman figures, we'd get Power Rangers, I would get a dump truck maybe on the table, but that was his night to pick the centerpiece. How did I make a moment that would be out of something simple on a budget? I took what we had. I couldn't afford much. I used boxed macaroni and cheese, put it on different plates and different vessels and containers, and made a moment that to this day, my son is going to be 35 years old, and I still remember those moments. I still remember the smells of the macaroni and cheese. I remember those things. I can almost smell the onions and the butter in the pan when my mother-in-law talked about it. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to make a moment, and you can do the same thing for yourself. So maybe get a candle and light a candle for yourself. You're going to have dinner tonight. You are a family of one. Maybe put a nice centerpiece and change it up on the table and make a moment for yourself. You've worked all day, you've worked hard, or you just had a day and a half and you just need to feel special. Maybe there's someone in your life that you need to make feel special. So dig out some of these ideas, dig out some of these items, go hit that pantry, see what you can throw together and make a nice meal and make it a moment doing simple things in life. Okay, guys, thanks for coming over to my home. Anytime feel like you can pop in. You can pop in on the regular with my up and coming videos, or you can even go back and look at my past videos. I'd love to have you subscribe and join the family and be a regular visitor in my home. All right, guys, thanks so much. We'll catch you all on the next video.